Coming up, sports betting is a step closer to becoming legal in Kentucky.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Legislation to legalize sports betting in Kentucky passed in the House this evening and now moves to the Senate. But that's where previous legislation has died before. It's estimated sports betting would bring in around $23 million a year, with most of that going to fund the public pension system. Opponents call it predatory and say it harms Kentucky families. Chad Hedrick has the latest.
It's legislation that supporters have been trying to get passed in Kentucky.
There have been efforts dealing with this for roughly the last 4 years in this body.
Sports wagering again passing in the House of Representatives with a 63-34 vote. 6 of Kentucky's 7 bordering states have already legalized legislation. Missouri has not. Bill sponsor Republican Michael Meredith says for people in 46 Kentucky border counties, they can easily hop over state lines and place a bet.
In fact, sometimes you don't even have to cross the river. I've heard from folks in Jefferson County who know the exact parking lot on River Road where you can go, bounce off an Indiana cell phone tower, and you can place your wager without crossing the river, without paying the toll.
Meredith said on the House floor the American Gaming Association estimates more than $1.1 billion annually are wagered illegally in Kentucky, but opponents say it targets families and shifts priorities.
This bill didn't bring any jobs to Kentucky, didn't bring any jobs to East Kentucky. We're going to get $22 million in revenue for the state. 2.5% goes to the gambling fund. And we're going to lose, our people of Kentucky are going to lose probably $300 million.
Representative Josh Callaway tried to add 2 amendments that would ban credit cards from being used and raise the age limit to 21. Both failed.
I voted no today because this is not good for Kentucky. It's not good for families. It's not good for people.
Of course, that was Representative Chris Fugate of Hazard. Now, Governor Beshear says he would sign sports wagering legislation, but it would have to first pass the Senate. Last year, legislation passed in the House, but it was never heard on the Senate floor. Well, Governor Beshear made a stop in the mountains this afternoon, announcing millions in funding for cleaner water, local nonprofits, tourism, and law enforcement. WYMT's Keaton Hall has more on the 29 different projects that were funded.
During a visit to the Mountain Arts Center, Governor Beshear presented more than $8.5 million in awards to several mountain counties.
Investments in clean water and sewer, investments supporting nonprofits and tourism, investments that will help better the lives of our families.
$3.6 million will be going towards clean water improvements in 5 counties, including $2.3 million in Johnson County.
Water, sewer projects that obviously improve the quality of life of all the residents of East Kentucky, and obviously helps us in future with economic development and obviously retention of residency.
Local law enforcement also receiving funds. The Floyd County Sheriff's Office will now be able to replace gear lost in the Allen shooting.
Right after our tragedy, in Allen, the governor reached out and said, I want to know what you need, what you lost in the incident, what can we replace, tell me what you got to do to get it. And so we started naming him off some things that we needed, and he said, I'll get this office up and going, whatever this administration can do, and that's what they've done.
The governor also announced Senator Mitch McConnell's news that Eastern Kentucky will receive $300 million in federal funding for long-term flood relief.
That HUD, the federal agency, is going to provide about $300 million in what are called Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Funds. And those kind of come on the back end to help us rebuild homes in Eastern Kentucky.
The governor hoping the federal government will be quicker to actually provide these funds than they have in the past. In Prestonsburg, Keaton Hall, WYMT Mountain News.
More than $700,000 was awarded to local nonprofits from the Nonprofit Assistance Fund.
Well, skies stayed mostly cloudy during the evening hours, and yes, some more sunshine during those evening hours, at least behind the clouds, kept it brighter through 7:30 tonight as we've sprung forward. Here's the view outside right now. No sunlight. It's 5 past 11, but we are seeing plenty of street lights on at this hour and even a touch of some reflection on those roads, meaning we're seeing some wet weather out there. Moorhead, dry as a bone and freezing out there. 32, the current reading there along Interstate 64. Many of us at freezing or below right now. Look at Jackson at 31, Clintwood's at 29, and Wise is at 27. So chilly air continues. Can't rule out some flurries there in parts of Pike County into southwest Virginia. Haven't seen much in the way of observation there, but it is something we'll watch. That area of snow showers is going to continue to ride along the Big Sandy River, and that's something we'll watch through the evening hours, though I don't suspect much accumulation out of that if indeed it's reaching the ground. So light precipitation ends mid-20s out there tonight. Details, though, on when we receive a bit of a warm-up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. It was 30 years ago tonight. The storm of the century was hitting our region. The historic late winter blizzard crushed eastern Kentucky. It brought 6 to 30 inches of snow between March 12th and 14th, 1993. The 24-hour snowfall record for the state was set right here in Hazard with 25 inches. I-75 from Lexington to the Tennessee border and I-64 from Lexington to the West Virginia border was shut down for about 2 days. Nearly 4,000 drivers were stranded. This storm impacted everyone east of the Mississippi River from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada. Officers with the Pikeville Police Department spent the day reflecting on another night that changed so much for so many people. Pikeville Police Officer Scotty Hamilton was killed 5 years ago today, shot while on duty during a drug-related call in the Hurricane community. But it is not the way he died, instead the way he served, that his family in blue hopes will be part of his lasting legacy.
Everything we can do to keep his memory alive. He made the ultimate sacrifice for this city and the Commonwealth and this community. And he should be recognized. We need to keep his memory alive.
From the constant conversations about Hamilton at the station to the murals, signs, and even a street name in his honor, officers say they are confident his sacrifice will never be forgotten. Friends say Harold Kemper, who died Friday, left a lasting impact on eastern Kentucky, holding a host of different titles in the community, from founder of the Leslie County Fire Department, fire chief, director of Leslie County Emergency Management, and founder of Kemper Furniture. But his family says his faith is what stands out the most.
I think the most fulfilling thing for him about the last 10 years is when he became a Gideon and a chaplain. And I don't know, it just lit up his life. He just loved going and praying for people, witnessing to people for Christ.
His funeral will be tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Wolf & Sons Funeral Home in Leslie County. Kemper was 85. The family of legendary singer and Johnson County native Loretta Lynn has suffered another heartbreaking loss. The Lynn family announced today that Loretta's longtime assistant and dear friend Tim Cobb has died. He was Loretta's assistant for 30 years, beginning in 1982, and was thought of as part of the family. Cobb designed Loretta's iconic gowns, was the curator of her museum, and helped take care of Loretta at her ranch in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. His death comes less than 6 months after the Queen of Country died at the age of 90. Cobb's cause of death was not released. Dozens of kids are already registered at Oak Tree Academy for daycare as the business reopens more than 7 months after the July flood. The daycare is a big part of the community to a lot of parents in Letcher County. Director Terry Ratliff keeps the daycare open 7:30 a.m. through 5 p.m. on weekdays to give parents more time for work. She says her goal is to make Oak Tree Academy a second home for children.
Most parents has to work longer hours than after 3 o'clock, so that's really good. And then, yes, where it's a home-like environment, the children are safe, the parents feel secure.
Ratliff plans to take kids on trips to the library and nature hikes. She also has examples of indoor and outdoor exhibits for children to learn about. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is out of the hospital. His communications director says his concussion recovery is going well and says he was discharged today. His next step is to go through physical therapy at an inpatient rehabilitation facility before returning home. His team said not only did he suffer a concussion from his fall last week, he also fractured a rib. McConnell is 81. A trial date is set in the case against former Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis. A jury will decide whether Davis owes a Moorhead couple for violating their constitutional right. She refused to give a marriage license to same-sex couple David Ermold and his partner in 2015. A federal trial is set for July 11th in Ashland. Now that our clocks have sprung forward and we've lost an hour of sleep, how does that impact our health? Garrett Weimer and photojournalist Darnell Crenshaw spoke to a Lexington doctor about how losing 1 hour of rest may lead to a number of serious increased health risks.
We increase daylight savings times when we jump forward. There is an increased risk of cardiovascular events. We've seen increased risk of stroke, increased risk of heart attack.
So why are there increased health risks with the time change?
Well, that's a great question. The body has a normal internal clock, a circadian rhythm that we get used to. And when that disrupts, it can disrupt a lot of stuff, not only cardiovascular, such as stroke or heart attack, but it can affect your immune system.
Dr. Jeff Fox with Family Practice Associates of Lexington says there's good news. When there's extra light in the evening, people may want to exercise more outside, making us healthier. But on the flip side,
but that extra light also, again, affects our sleep hormones, affects our melatonin. So we may not go to bed as early. We may not sleep as well through the night. So we wake up in the morning fatigued.
And speaking of waking up tired, time change impacts our daily commute.
Accidents also increase early around the time of time change.
Drowsy driving is especially bad right now when we go through this time change.
Lori Weaver Hawkins of AAA of the Bluegrass says if you're feeling sleepy behind the wheel, you might need to take a break.
It's amazing what just a half-hour nap at a rest stop can do to refresh you and make you safer on the roads.
Dr. Fox says making the proper adjustments to your sleep pattern during daylight saving time is key to a healthy lifestyle. As to whether springing forward is good for us,
it appears that it's probably healthier overall if we stay with a standard time on a year-round basis.
In Lexington, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
Dr. Fox also mentioned people may experience mood change and depression during the time change. He says after a 2 to 3 week time span, most of us will have adjusted to daylight saving time. Now you can vote on our web poll and tell us if you think we should do away with daylight saving time right now on WYMT.com. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, President Biden insists our banking system is safe as the White House is taking steps to contain the fallout from 2 bank failures.
And things stay cool for now, but another spring preview is on the way. Details on that coming up after this.
My son's name is Casey. He died from an overdose to heroin at the age